Housing Development Program in Africa. Housing Development Program and the globe. Number one, Housing Development Program.
This is Housing Development, your go-to show for the latest update, insightful discussions, and expert opinions on housing and real estate. As always, I am your housing diva, Flora Arne, and it's always a pleasure to bring you valuable information that empowers you in the housing sector. On today's episode, I have a power-packed lineup, trending news in the housing sector, a special Vox Pop on women's property rights, a recap of the Enlightening International Women's Day webinar on Real Conversation, and why you shouldn't miss the Africa International Housing Show this year. Let's get started by taking a look at the top stories making waves in the housing and real estate industry.
The Mortgage Banking Association of Nigeria, MBAN, has elected new executives, pledging to drive positive change in the mortgage sector with the president-elect, Managing Director of Imperial Homes Mortgage Bank and Chairman of the National Executive Council, NEC, Ayo Olowokere, during the biennial general meeting. Meanwhile, the immediate past president of the association and managing director of Citicode Mortgage Bank, Mr. Mark Yoroki, has been appointed as an ex-officio member of the National Executive Council. However, Ayo Olowokere, a finance executive with over 20 years of experience in finance and real estate, aims to foster collaboration among mortgage banks, restructure the secretariat, and create a unified organization for all members. The Executive Director, Housing Development Advocacy Network, HDAN, Barrister Festus Adebayo, has called on the federal government to seek the collaboration of the Bank of Industry for the appropriate finance for the manufacturers of local building materials in order to reduce costs. He also added that the government should lead by example in propagating the use of local building materials in all of its projects nationwide. This is coming on the sideline of the recent Stakeholders Engagement Forum organized by the Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development in Lagos, which was centered on how to bring down the rising cost of building materials, and many suggestions were made by stakeholders in the build sector. Adebayo commended the Minister of Housing for his unwavering initiatives and innovations in bringing stakeholders together to discuss the most crucial factor affecting the availability of affordable housing in Nigeria. The Kebbi State government has entered into a strategic partnership with MSM Group of companies to establish a state-of-the-art cement plant, a move expected to generate 45 jobs and accelerate economic growth in the state. Speaking at the signing ceremony in Abuja, Governor Nasir Idris described the project as a major breakthrough for economic development and a lifeline for thousands of unemployed youths and women in the state. The chairman of MSM Group, Muazzam Mehrawani, highlighted the strategic importance of the investment, noting that the MSM Kebbi Cement plant will utilize cutting-edge technology to enhance production and efficiency. The Minister of Finance, Olawale Edun, praised the initiative, stating that it aligns with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic vision of attracting private investment, fostering industrialization, and reducing poverty. Similarly, Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Senator Atiku Bagudu, commended Kebbi State's efforts to attract large-scale investments, reaffirming the federal government's commitment to creating a business-friendly environment.
That's it for the latest in housing news. Visit www.africanhousingnews.com for more. Coming up next, we hit the street to hear from Nigerians on a very important issue: women's property rights. Do women have equal opportunity when it comes to owning homes and land? What are the challenges and how can they be addressed? Our team hit the street to find out what people think. Let's take a listen.
need more policies in that regard that protect the interests of a widow or a man or woman. And also as a man, first of all, let's talk about government policies in regards to women who are in homes and protection for women who actually lost maybe their husbands, and you see family members comes to fighting over properties, land, things like that. I think also the government need to do more to have more laws in that regard.
They felt that women we don't have the strength. We are just good in kitchen. The government have not done much because Nigeria feel that is a tradition. As soon as the woman lost her husband, yes, the family, they have right to come and take one or two things. No, it is not done that way. Nigeria women are really suffering. They are really suffering in terms of in marriage. They are really suffering. So Nigeria government should do something for us.
Second son, no, we do it. If you are the first, like I'm the firstborn in my family now, everything I'm supposed to be the first to pick. If they are sharing, I will be the first to pick. They don't do because you're not the first May. No, we don't do that. But in some areas in Nigeria, they do first May pick first. Even if the first May is the last child, they will want you to be the first to take over.
It is a fundamental abuse of human rights and the dignity of woman for her not to allow her inherit the property of her husband or her father. It is a gross abuse of human rights, and that should not be. As a matter of fact, the National Assembly should pass a law, should enact a bill that will make that right express. It's not a thing that should be debatable, because by virtue of the United Nations Human Rights, 1948, women are entitled to that, as well as men. So the right of a person is the right of a person. So women are unequivocally entitled to the inheritance that belongs to their husband or their father. Anything outside of that, I do not subscribe to it. And in my own opinion, I would say that it's an abuse of the fundamental human right of women.
That was quite insightful. Women's property rights remains a crucial conversation, and we need to keep pushing for equity. Up next, I'll take you through some key highlights from the International Women's Day webinar I had on Real Conversation. You don't want to miss this. Stay with Housing Development. Welcome back. On International Women's Day, I had an incredible discussion on The Real Conversation, where experts and industry leaders shared valuable insight on women's empowerment in the housing sector and beyond. Here is a recap of some of the most powerful moments from that section. Today we are celebrating the International Women's Day. How do we accelerate action? How do we accelerate policies that support women participation in all fields? Architecture and urban planning have historically been male-led fields. What has your journey been like as the president of the Nigerian Institute of Architects? How do we encourage more women to take up leadership roles in this space?
Thank you very much for having me on this program. First of all, let me say that, like my colleague, QS Yota has just said, working in a male-dominated field is not always a very easy experience. However, if a woman is competent, strong, resilient, she can match up even in that field. For my institute in particular, we have more men than women at all levels. And as a matter of fact, in 65 years of our existence, because we're going to be 65 this year, we've had only 2 women, I being the second as president in all the lifetime of the Nigerian Institute of Architects. That shows you that it's not been easy for women to rise up to leadership in the profession. However, we have been encouraging a lot of our women and giving them the necessary tutelage, counsel, as well as mentorship to be able to aspire to become leaders in the field.
All right. So as an investor and founder, you've seen firsthand the struggles women face in attracting capital. What needs to change in Nigeria's investment landscape to accelerate women's financial empowerment?
MasterCard recently did some research that found that in Nigeria, 90% of women want to be entrepreneurs. And the reasons are very, very interesting. The first one was they do that because they want to earn more. Because as I said earlier, in the workforce, women are earning a lot less than men. They also do that because they want to be independent. They want to be able to sort of not have to depend on the husbands for income. And then they also want to create kind of financial safety net. So when we look at all of this, then we realize that women actually do want to work, women do want to succeed, and women are very much interested in entrepreneurship. But then we find that there are many stumbling blocks for women to enter the entrepreneurship space. So whilst 90% of women want to be entrepreneurs, we find that a very small fraction of them successfully become entrepreneurs. And the reason being cultural, balancing work-life balance, and also being able to convince investors that they can actually successfully run the business and scale up the business and make the business successful and profitable.
All right, Peace. From a legal perspective, what challenges do women face in securing property rights, and how can we address this through policy and advocacy?
Thank you so much, Flora. Like the previous speaker said, in Nigeria, we have so many laws, and I'm happy that we are no longer where we used to be because a lot of things have happened. And one of the greatest challenges that we had in the past was the issue of cultural barriers. You know, there's this landmark case in 2001 of Omoreji and Osula. Omoreji wanted to recover all the lands and take possession of all the property that their father left behind. And then it was contested based on customary right, that they don't have rights, that they are all women and therefore cannot take possession of their father's property. So she felt that that was discriminatory and also against the constitutional rights. And then she went to court. The court agreed with her. And of course, judgment was given in her favor. And the court actually held in that's against her constitutional rights. So I'm going to use that as a foundation to list different laws that we have protecting women's rights in Nigeria. So we have our 1999 Constitution as amended. So our Constitution gives every citizen rights. And it did not say in the law that a man should or a woman, it say every citizen. So whether you are a man, whether you are a woman, you have right to own immovable property. So that gives us that right to own immovable property. Therefore, and there's a provision in the 1999 corner, not in line with the Constitution, will be declared null and void. So if there's any customary right, if there's any other law that is not in line, in tandem with the provisions of the Constitution as amended, it means that it's null and void. So if there's any cultural right that is stopping any woman from owning any property, is null and void. And so what we need to do is to put out advocacy out there to educate women on their property rights, for them to know what actually the law says concerning them. The Land Use Act is also another law that governs our land tenure in Nigeria, that every property is vested in the government, and it also recognizes the right of women to own property in Nigeria. The most interesting one is our Marriage Act of 1970, which also give women the opportunity to also own property rights anywhere in Nigeria. And we have some customary laws that also recognizes this right of women to own property in Nigeria. Then more interesting is our Child Rights Act of 2003, which now includes girls. Because you know, sometimes parents are deceased, leaving their properties for their children, of course. And you see some of these families want to take over in the name, oh, the man gave birth to all girls and all that. So the Child Rights Act of 2003 gave them opportunity to also own and sustain their rights. And we have the Violence Against Persons Provision Act of 2015, also giving women's right to property and inheritance, and also in situations of domestic violence, because we have had cases of domestic violence, women being kicked out of home, and I want to say this, most men are the reason why some of their wives, their wives go through some certain issues in their absence. Why? Because when they buy the property, they buy it in their own name. Normally, what is recognized and what is valid is that if it's Mr. Okeke and Mrs. Okeke, Mr. A Okeke and Mr. B Okeke, showing that this property belongs to two of them. So it must be stated Mr. A Okeke, Mr. B Okeke, not even the husband. So you put it that way so that when either party is not around, one person can continue.
In one sentence, I'd like each of you, my lovely dailies, my amazing Amazons, I'd like each of you to share your call to action for women in your respective field. Let me start with Mrs. Mercy Yote.
Call for accelerated action. I think it is very apt because we are all aware that we are better than when we started at the Beijing conference, but that we've realized that we still need to take more action to be able to reach the promised land, which looks so far 134 years looks so far like someone said we may not be there. So we should all just help each other. We have listened to speakers in all the various aspects, and we really should reach out to help one another to hold the baton, to drag us, all the women, the ones in the rural areas, the ones that are impoverished, the ones that have no idea what. Let us try to reach out so that we can accelerate the action to empower women. Empowerment is very important. Everyone needs money, everyone needs to be empowered. So we need to help each other.
Thank you. Madam Uzamaka Oshogwe.
In my view, the most urgent need for accelerated action is in the area of economic empowerment for our women. Women and girls in many parts of the world continue to face significant barriers to accessing education, healthcare, economic opportunities. So by accelerating action to address these barriers, we can, help unlock the full potential of our women and our young ladies, to drive more inclusion and sustainable economic growth. Not just a singular growth, one that is sustainable. And we at Transcorp Hotel, Hilton Hotels, we're contributing to these aspects through business empowerment program for women. We've done so for young women, less privileged areas, empowering them with skills, business skills, financial skills, and also some funding and enablement for them to actually start up their own businesses. So this is an area that we should actually begin to look at growing and accelerate growth and accelerate action. So happy Independence Women's Day.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Chiapodi.
Yeah, call to action. Let me actually move beyond just the call and actually suggest an action. Why don't we leverage existing platforms that we have to actually, see how we can create a community of women, even the women that are have been part and parcel of this discussion. Create a community of practice of women in the built environment that will come together. There is one platform which was created by our esteemed architect Jumoke Akim called Build Her Initiatives. It's a, you know, I
Yes.
think it's something, yeah, we should leverage that platform, strengthen it, bring in more participants, you know, get together, see what we can do, identify a work plan, a program of action, if it's advocacy, if it's training, if it's upskilling of women, if it's whatever it is, but identify a program, 1, 2, 3. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, but identify what's already is where the where the needs are, and leverage platforms like Build Her Initiative to really begin to address those needs. And more importantly, not just address them, but be able to monitor progress and action. So that by next year's International Women's Day, we're coming back not just to talk about the theme for that year's internet, but actually to report on work that's been done, on progress.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Chi. Architect Olajumoke Akinwumi.
I'm going back to leadership because leadership is never given. It's actually taken through action. And fortunately or unfortunately, not other people's action, is our individual actions. So my call to action is about owning our leadership. Those of us who've been in the industry for a long time, setting the absolute best examples that we can. But more fundamentally, hand-holding others. And absolutely, the platforms will do just that. But hand-holding others to show them how they can be of influence where they're at. And I emphasize this because I recognize that a lot of us women, somebody mentioned something about emotional intelligence. We leave too much on the table because we're not even aware of what it is that we actually carry. So it is about really building the capacities in particularly young people and to support them to seek opportunities to contribute. My 3 I's, and I've repeated it over and over again in the past few days or perhaps weeks, is influence, impact, and initiative. I think this is the work that we have to do to the next generation of leaders so that they can rise quickly and take their place.
Such an inspiring session there. Women are making remarkable strides, and we must continue to advocate for equal opportunities in housing and beyond. Now for those looking to network, learn or grow in real estate industry, there is one event you absolutely cannot miss, the Africa International Housing Show. Stay with me as I share why attending this event could be a game changer for you. And we're back now. This is housing development. If you're passionate about real estate, housing finance, or investment, the Africa International Housing Show is the ultimate event to attend. But why? Here are some reasons. Networking. Meet top players in the industry, developers, investors, policymakers, and more. Exhibition. Discover the latest innovations, building materials, and financing options. Panels, sessions, and workshops. Gain insight from industry leaders on housing policies and market trends. business and investment opportunities. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned investor, this is the place to be. The countdown is on and you don't want to miss out. Register now and secure your spot at Africa's biggest housing event. And that's a wrap for today's edition of Housing Development. It's been an insightful conversation, and I hope you've gained valuable information to navigate the housing sector better. Join me next week for more updates and expert discussions. Until then, I'm your housing diva, reminding you that home ownership is possible for everyone. Stay informed, stay empowered. See you next time.